Babar and Humayun, both of them, would you consider them as kind kings, benevolent kings? What sort of kings were they?
No king is benevolent, no king is kind. All kings will tax, and they will tax unjustly.
How are they relevant today?
So they're massively relevant today. Firstly, of course, I think the BJP won't come to power if they didn't exist, because their entire agenda is, oh my God, Mughal slavery, Mughal slavery. Now there is this book called Brahma Vilas, which is which was written in 1700, and then there is another book called Padmanandi Panchavishika. Both of these Jain texts say that there is so much religious tolerance in Aurangzeb's time.
What?
Yeah, and this is something, that people say, oh, Aurangzeb broke this, that and the other temple. Where is it written? Aurangzeb's own sources are saying it.
Okay.
But history, I think has been more prone also because of the fact that there is this idea of nation building and history that goes hand in hand. In order to build the nation, you must have a history of the nation which proclaims the nation is great, which says that, the nation has been in existence for forever. Every time they wanted to depict quote-unquote tribals, they would go Jingalalahu, Jingalalahu.
Yes.
There is an entire song, Hum Bewafa, and then there is a whole... And they also show them dressed in skulls, etc. There is this very annoying idea in quote-unquote civilizational people that somebody who doesn't follow our ways is automatically barbaric and must be looked down upon.
Right. Akbar he's illiterate. And the second thing is he develops insane ways to govern his giant, massive empire.
Yeah.
Right. And one of them is Dine-e-Ilahi.
Both of these are actually incorrect. He's not illiterate.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But he wants to project that he's illiterate. By the way, fascinatingly, the rumor for how Jahangir and Nur Jahan met is the same as how Shah Jahan and Mumtaz met.
Okay.
They met at the Meena Bazaar where she was selling something, and she was so fair that when she would have pan and she would, sort of take it inside, then this entire thing would get red. She had like some transparent porcelain skin. So I would say that I don't think of Aurangzeb as evil at all. I think, in fact, he is massively misrepresented in the popular lore. And a lot of people give me flack for it. Oh, Aurangzeb must be your favorite Mughal ruler. Well, he is. Because I think only he could have...
Mughals were evil despots.
It's not that simple.
It really isn't, because Dr. Ruchika Sharma here, who is a historian, she's also a YouTuber and a dear friend. She is going to tell us some very interesting things about Mughals which practically I don't even know about. You have done extensive work on this, you have extensive reading of this, and one of your favorite videos about how the Mughals wrote the Mahabharata.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. But she's a YouTuber. She does many videos on history and with I wouldn't say a special focus on Mughals, but do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely, sure. I am Dr. Ruchika Sharma. I'm a historian of medieval India.
Yeah.
So Mughals is something that I do have a bit of an expertise on, no matter what people on my Twitter, etc. say. I genuinely do know quite a lot about this. I am an architectural historian by training, but gender is also something that I'm very interested in. And I, make videos on history, trying to make sense of whatever is happening with history these days in the country, and a lot of communalization which is growing, and I want to, nip it in the bud. But also just a lot of crazy myths, which I think have been around in India for like decades now. So I just want to sort of, I that's what I say in a lot of interviews as well, is I cannot sleep if I know that there is a myth out there related to history and I haven't busted it. So I have to do that.
Mythbuster, what do you think about this one sentence? Let's start there. Mughals were evil despots.
I think it's not that simple.
Yeah.
But also, I think this idea that somebody in history is evil, especially in a pre-modern time, I think is a very problematic idea. Because everything in pre-modern times has to be seen in that pre-modern context. So if you look at Mughals and if you say, for example, just focus on their violence, then you will see that they weren't more violent than the other rulers of their time. Not just in India, but across the world as well, right? So just to give you an example, it's one of my favorite examples that I quote a lot. If you look at, for example, this idea that the Mughals broke a lot of temples, right? So I'll come to the factual basis about it. But if you look at temple destruction itself, firstly, Mughals were not the only ones who broke them, right? But also, if you are looking for an evil despot who broke temples, then, a closer candidate would be 12th century ruler of Kashmir called King Harsha, who went around, and this is, the source for this is Kalhan's Raj Tarangini, which is written in Sanskrit. And this guy literally went around breaking every temple that he could lay his hand on in Kashmir, save 2 temples.
Okay.
So he broke every temple in Kashmir except for 2 temples. And then he wasn't just satisfied with breaking temples. He took the idols of the temples and put them in mud, asked naked sadhus to, urinate on it. To pass not just urine but also their excreta, right? So it was just crazy madness, right?
This was in 12th century.
This is in 12th century. Much before
why
the
did he
Turks.
do this?
That's the thing. Even Kalhan's Raj Tarangini is, they first started, Kalhan says that he first started doing it because he needed money. He was short on finances. So looting temples was a very common thing and he did that. But it isn't just looting, right? It's just some crazy madness and he wants to sort of, almost... It seems like a religious purpose, but then again, he's from the same religion, right?
Yeah, that's
he
right,
also goes to temples, etc., right? So it's, in fact, one of the temples that he did not touch at all was the Sun Temple, right? So I would think that the reason for this is just despotism. I will do it because I can do it.
Right.
And you
Some
don't
sort of
find
power play. Weird
massive
power play,
right? In fact, he's the only ruler in India who's institutionalized temple destruction. He had a person called Uday Raj, and he was given the title of Dev Utpat Nayak. He made a new post, which basically means that a person who will get his salary only if he breaks X amount of idols in a day.
Oh, wow.
That's his only job. Dev Utpat Nayak, जो देवों का उत्पात मचाता हो, somebody who breaks temple idols.
It's like Trump deporting people and giving them targets. It's like 3,000 log deport karne per day.
Exactly.
It's exactly that.
4 मूर्ति तोड़ोगे तो पैसा मिलेगा.
Yeah, exactly. What?
He literally did that, right? And that's the thing. So if you're looking for despotism, he probably is a much better candidate. Because I don't find anybody in the Mughals ever doing something like this. And even if you look at, say, the person who everybody loves in the Mughal rulers, Aurangzeb.
Yes.
If you look at him, even he didn't go ahead and do this, right? His reasons for breaking temple are very political. And there is a reason as to why, he, for example, would make, say, a mosque using, the old temple material, etc. There is a way to explain this. There is a rationale behind it.
We will come to that part.
Yeah.
Because I want to go step by step. Because
Sure.
we will unravel Mughals dheere dheere, no?
Right.
Aurangzeb is the final chapter. So, but before we begin with this, I want you to tell me... these are all figures that existed in the 15th century, 16th century, and beyond that a little bit, 300 years almost. How are they relevant today?
Okay, so they're massively relevant today. Firstly, of course, I think the BJP won't come to power if they didn't exist, because their entire agenda is, oh my God, Mughal slavery.
Yeah.
We have taken you out of Mughal slavery.
Right.
So if the Mughals didn't exist, that. So another, very important reason for the relevance is a lot of our culture today can be dated back to the Mughals. So for example, most of North India speaks Hindi. That developed in the Mughal camps. Right? So in fact, one of the Mughal rulers, Shah Alam II, was speaking Hindi, which is very close to the Hindi that we speak today, right? So then you have what I'm wearing right now, for example, is something that developed in the Mughal times. This kameez, this churidar, right? Lehenga choli, right? Kurta pajama, you have, this very lighter version of what is called as the dupatta today, but a very lighter version of it. It was earlier called odhni. So you had, which was called panchtolia during, Noor Jahan's time. She was the one who apparently, innovated that. So you have a lot of these sartorial, things that wouldn't have happened if we didn't have Mughals, so their relevance is sort of very important there. But also food.
Food.
Half of North India is famous for Mughlai cuisine, right? People come here and say, oh, Delhi is bearable only because Mughlai cuisine or something like that,
yeah.
right? I mean, which makes sense. Also.
Yeah.
So this idea, and it's not just something that you'll find in restaurants, but even in kitchens. Mughlai cuisine is basically onion-based.
Yes.
Right? So they use onion as a thickener, but then they'll also put onion on top of it as a flavor. Right? So this is called do pyaza, the technique. Using onion twice. So food, again, very relevant. But also, I think a lot of what we do today, in the daily, in political sense as well. So, for example, every 15th of August, whether it's whoever the Prime Minister is, they will go on the Red Fort. Right? And give their speech. That's a huge symbol of Indian independence because 1857 revolt started from there. So these rebels, they went to Bahadur Shah Zafar, who was in the Red Fort at that point of time, woke him up from his sleep, poor guy, and he's a very old guy at that point in time. And they said, sir, you have to lead this revolt. And he's completely shocked because he's like, I don't want to, because I know how this is going to end and they're going to have my head for it. And that's exactly what happened, right? But he had to, because he has this massive mob at his doorstep. So either he dies right now, or later. So smart guy, he chose to die later. He died in a very terrible circumstances. He's exiled to Rangoon, etc. Right. So Red Fort continues to be this symbol of Indian independence. So much of tourism also, like Fatehpur Sikri. You have Taj Mahal. In Gujarat also so much of Mughals. Mandu, which is my research area in Madhya Pradesh. A lot of it has been built by the Mughals, etc. So the architecture is something that is amazing. So much of the culture of paintings, for example. So when the Mughal painting started happening after the Mughals, a lot of Pahari paintings, different schools of paintings that the Rajputs, etc., also started patronizing, comes from the Mughals. Right? So I would think they're extremely relevant today. Not just in political sense, but also culturally speaking. And they continue to be, as much as you hate it, as much as everybody hates. For example, even the Bandgala, right?
Bandgala.
Right? All of that comes from the Mughals. So Modi will wear a Bandgala, but he will hate the Mughals.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So there is... It's interesting because, I think we had a conversation once about this as well, about the relevance of history in our daily lives, right?
Yeah.
History sort of informs our present, is the saying there, but you need to know history to actually get informed. And your main job is to bust myths right now from the looks of it. Can you talk a little bit about how history gets twisted for different purposes?
Yeah. So, this is, before I start answering this, it's important to know it's not just history. I think if you have the correct population for it, you can twist anything and sell it to them.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be history. But if you have an aware population, it will be a lot more difficult for you to do that.
Because they'll think critically.
Exactly, right? So population that is more aware, it doesn't matter what subject you are, twisting for them. They will be able to top your game. They'll be able to understand that, something wrong is happening. But if a population is unaware, then every subject goes. But history, I think has been more prone also because of the fact that there is this idea of nation building and history that goes hand in hand. In order to build the nation, you must have a history of the nation which proclaims the nation is great, which says that, the nation has been in existence for forever.
Yeah.
Which is
untrue.
Which is untrue, exactly right. Because the nation's idea in itself is a 19th, 20th century. It's a very modern idea. Right? And it is very true for India. So India as we know it with its current boundaries was not how India was in Indian history. It was a much larger subcontinental area. So I think this is why it's very important to, twist history so that it suits your national interests, right? So that is one thing. The other layer is political interests, which I think a lot of people today tend to sort of mix, saying national interest means political. It's not the same. Many parties also benefit from saying, oh, party means the nation or whatever. But that's not how it is. Political interests will use history to stay in power. Right. So I want to stay in power, and this is the history that suits me and my ideology. Right. So, for example, the BJP, Sangh, etc., have this ideology that they have been, evil despots. They have pushed us into slavery, etc. So they will, create that narrative. A lot of the times by picking and choosing only those facts, right? And a lot of the times without facts.
Correct.
Right, which is more than the times that they use facts. They almost never do. So I think the reason why it's prone is because it's very important to have a historical narrative that suits your political interests or your national interests. No matter how much people say we find history boring, etc., this is the first thing that they will look at in their daily lives, whether it is, their own personal history, their identity history. So, for example, their caste history, their family's history, the history of, for example, if I'm a woman, so what has my history been, right? People do this every day in their daily lives. They wouldn't like to admit, they probably don't do it very, consciously, but subconsciously, this is always the thought of, constantly analyzing and reanalyzing the past. And that is something that I think is constantly used by people in power. This idea that they do want to know the past, right? But we can give them the past that we want to give them, right?
Interesting.
So, and we can do this not just, by speaking about it, but also putting it in books. So, for example, every time, there is a regime change in India, the first thing that happens is history books. NCRT history books get rejected. And I remember when I was in school, I bore the brunt of it because we used to get textbooks very late then. Like 6 months, your semester is started and everything. In 6 months, you don't have the textbooks.
Yeah.
Only the teacher has it and she's teaching you. So I think this is why history is very prone, because it's such an integral part of our lives. And managing it, creating it, rejigging it, etc., gives people a lot of power.
So here is where, okay, from my understanding, because we're talking about Mughals, right? Now their history would be a perspective, right? I mean, history is always a perspective because you look at an event, there are people who are recording that event. I mean, journalists record the first draft, as they say. But then again, historians, their job is to take that draft and make sense of it. So essentially, they're like weaving a story around that event and that personality and their period to make sense of it for future generations. What do you think about bias there? Because that is one of the big reasons why I feel like myths also like perpetuate in history, which is like, तो यह तो पर्सपेक्टिव ही गलत था, ये लिखा था वो आदमी गलत था. So how do you deal with that?
So in history, basically facts are infinite, right?
Yes, which makes it very inconvenient.
Right. So the problem then is, this is also the reason why it becomes very prone to be used and misused, is that if you have a particular interpretation and if you're not, doing research properly, what you can do is you can make an interpretation and then go around looking for facts. Right? So what then happens is your interpretation becomes a truism.
Yeah.
Right? You will be able to prove it even if you have just 2 facts that you've been able to find. Right? This is not how history is done, however. A lot of people tend to do that. They make a perspective, they make an interpretation first, and then go looking for facts. But it should be the other way around, right? You first formulate a research question. For example, say, did sati exist, for example, right? And then you look at, for example, if I want to say, did sati exist in the 4th century AD? Then I will look at sources in the 4th century AD. And I will look at, say, inscriptions. So there is a 5th century AD inscription which says that this particular queen a Gupta queen committed sati, and she's a very great queen for having committed sati. So yes, sati did exist. We have this particular document that proves that. Other documents that prove that. So then you have 4th century plays, etc. So fiction is a very interesting way in which that fiction tells us that probably sati was far more common because it has entered fiction as well. Because fiction takes from everyday lives, right? Fiction will not tell what the court chronicler will tell. He will tell only what is important to the court. But fiction will tell what is important to the people, right? So then probably sati was even more common, right? So as and when I keep reading sources and keep getting my facts, my research question gets answered, right? I might still be left with some questions which I can keep and, further research, further evidence, if tomorrow we have archaeological evidence, whatever, it can, sort of open up. This is how history is done. How do you weed out bias? Well, a good researcher, if he's researching, will first lay out his bias and limitations. That, for example, I am a woman and I am researching on sati. Now, that's a bias, right? Because I'm a woman, so there is no way that I cannot be emotionally moved by what I read. Right? Because as a woman, it is very dehumanizing to read about sati. So I'm already laying that out, right? Secondly, I'm an upper caste woman. So most of the cases of sati have been upper caste women, Brahmin women.
Okay.
Right? Brahmin women, Kshatriya women. So that again, creates this idea that, it comes from the same community that I am in. So that adds to the bias, right? So as and when I keep doing it, or just for the fact that, say I am researching on a particular monument, but I didn't go to the monument. So that in itself becomes a bias, that I haven't really studied the monument. I'm studying someone else's sources. I'm studying through photographs, etc. So if you lay out the biases, what happens is it'll minimize the bias, right? You cannot completely weed out the bias.
Right.
This is the limitation of humanities and social sciences. Because at the end of the day, human beings are doing it. Something that science does not have, because, what you can create, as an experiment, anybody else can also create it.
Yeah.
Right? But that cannot be the case with social sciences and humanities. So what you have to do is you have to lay out your bias and say, okay, this is my bias. For the layman who's reading history, the more perspectives he reads about a particular historical period, the better informed he will be about it, and the less bias will creep in, right? So, for example, if I'm reading about sati, say I read Ruchika's work on sati, I also read somebody called Mohan Bhargav, his work on sati, right?
Yeah.
Right? So, what it does is, now I have two different genders talking about it. Say I also read about sati from a low caste perspective.
But are you using the same sources in this example?
Depends, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah.
Depends, right? So, for example, if my research question is was there sati in the 4th century? So I will only use sources in the 4th century. Or if I want to say was there sati in the 4th century in Madhya Pradesh, then I will only use sources that pertain to Madhya Pradesh.
Correct.
So sources will be dictated by my research questions. Mohan Bhargav's question could be, did there exist sati in North India? So then his sources become, much larger. He's more data to work with. His book will be voluminous, etc. And, there'll be many other perspectives. For example, if my question is, what caste was practicing sati? Right? So then again, my research question will determine what sources I take.
True. So when it comes to Mughals, we can come to Mughals now at this point of time. What are the sort of sources that we use in this case? Because, I mean, right now what I see is, let's assume that there is a new perspective emerging of looking at Mughals, which is that, they were evil despots, right? Now, they might be doing it to make a base for whatever political nationalistic reasons. But at the same time, there is like this work going on at this point of time to do what you just said, which is like they will assume that, they were evil despots, and then they try to fill it up with facts on top of it.
Yeah.
If you had to do like a legitimate source-based research on Mughals, if my research question is this, were Mughals evil despots, what do I do?
Well, your first source has to be, and this is something that the Mughals are unique in, except for the British maybe, is that your biggest source will be Mughal documents themselves.
They wrote a lot.
They wrote a lot. Jadunath Sarkar called them Kagzi Raj.
Kagzi Raj. Okay.
You know, basically a Raj that exists on kagas, on paper.
Right.
So much of it is on paper, right?
They had people who were like noting down everything in court and everything.
Right.
Yeah.
And even the rulers themselves are very interested in getting everything noted down.
Right.
They thought, especially Akbar and etc., I am such an important person. Everything I do must be recorded.
Of course.
How dare you not record? Right? So there is a lot of recording. So your first set of sources has to be Mughals themselves. They themselves, and this is something, that people say, oh, Aurangzeb broke this, that, and the other temple. Where is it written? Aurangzeb's own sources are saying it.
Okay.
Masire Mahmud Shah, he says, he broke the Kashi Vishwanath temple. It says there is one line on it, but it is in the book that his only court has produced.
Okay.
Right? But what is not there in the book is also equally important, and that is where these people do the problem. It says Kashi Vishwanath temple was destroyed on orders of Aurangzeb. There's just one line. But now then they'll say, oh look, Kashi Vishwanath is destroyed and the masjid that must have also been built by Aurangzeb. And he also went ahead and broke 1,000 temples. So none of this is in the source.
Right.
There's only one line of evidence in the source that he broke this temple, Kashi Vishwanath, right? Why he broke this, etc. You'll have to, cull out other sources and see what was his issue with Kashi Vishwanath, blah, 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 right? But these people will put in their own facts, which are quote-unquote alt facts, which really don't exist, right? Nowhere does it say 1,000. Another thing which requires a very keen historical eye is a lot of these texts will say, this particular ruler went, broke this temple, and, the flag of Islam flew high.
Yeah.
Right? And these people who don't have a historical eye will take it literally and think, oh, he must be doing it for religious reason. He hates Hinduism. He wants Islam to be, But they don't realize this is how texts at that point of time were written. It is basically one particular court chronicler following another court chronicler's style of writing.
Right.
That's how they write, right? So, for example,
it's almost like a format at that point. It's a
format.
Like a bureaucratic format of writing things.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, for example, one thing which I found very interesting was with Savarkar. Right. The Maafinama that he wrote, it was a format.
Exactly.
I didn't realize it was a format.
Exactly. It's like in schools, etc., we taught a letter writing format. Right?
Yes.
Wherever we had exam, we would stick to that format.
Right.
It's exactly like that. They would have a format. And there would be, because this is, the Mughals had such standardization for everything that they were doing, right? For everything that they were writing, for everything that they were recording. You could not, if you wanted to write in a certain manner, which was deviating from the format that much. You could be poetic, etc. But you had to do that within the format, right? And this was a format that even the sultans before the Mughals were following, simply because of the fact that there is this idea in every Muslim ruler's head that I must look a good Muslim sultan. Right? Even if he is not. Like, for example, Akbar had people calling him kafir. His own clergy was not happy with him because, he was worshipping the sun. He was a Suri Parast, etc. Right? He was holding these Ibadat Khana debates. He's not a good Muslim, but his texts will say that, right? Why? Because he wants people to remember him as a good Muslim sultan.
Like a legacy almost.
Like a legacy, right? So, for example, Mahmud Ghazni is a very good example of this. Now, this is a guy whose tribe converted to Islam just 40 years before Mahmud Ghazni. So, they have this new convert zeal. कि मुझे दिखाना है मैं कितना अच्छा मुस्लिम हूँ, especially because he comes from a tribal conglomerate anyway, which was looked down upon at that point in time, because the high point of civilizational Islam at that point in time is Persia.
Right.
Which is not tribal at all. They speak Farsi, they write these amazing books, they have libraries, you have Damascus, Baghdad, all of these centers of learning. And here is this guy who comes from Ghazni, which is a very poor place, etc. So he really wants to be remembered there. Right? in line with those Persian rulers, etc. So he has, people like Firdausi, etc., who are writing Shahnameh, which is again about, these mythical Persian rulers and also, the real Persian ones, etc. And he's going and breaking temples. So, for example, he comes and breaks the Somnath temple, right? And breaks the Somnath idol. Now, when he goes back, his Persian scholars don't say that they broke the Shivling. They say he broke the idol of Manat, this lost idol from Arabia.
Oh.
So pre-Islamic Arabia had these three goddesses they were worshipping, Lat, Manat and Uzza, right? And there was this rumor that before Muhammad could come and, wipe out all the idols from the Kaaba, the idol of Manat was stolen.
Okay.
And this lore traveled, and these people thought that this is where it must have come. The name anyway rhymes, Sumanat.
Oh my God. Oh.
Right? So, and it's not like
That's
Ghazni.
so bizarre. That's really bizarre, by the way.
It is absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, it's hilarious. Like, it's like almost like lost in translation at
almost
this
like
point of
how,
time.
It's almost like how the Sanghis do it today, right? Christianity means Krishna Niti.
Yes.
Somanath means Sumanath.
Tejo Mahalaya.
Tejo Mahalaya, exactly.
Yeah.
Right? It's exactly like that. It's a complete propaganda. It's not like Ghazni doesn't know. He knows it's Shivling. Al-Baruni writes about it. Al-Baruni is working in his court. He says, it was Shivling. He broke it into two, right? So he knows. But why is he getting Sumanath written? Because he wants, in the Islamic world, to be the only Ghazi, to be the only ruler who's fighting for Islam. Fighting for Islam is a person who's a Ghazi. He is fighting for Islam and fighting for Sunni Islam so much so that he has broken the lost idol of Manat.
Oh, damn.
He's
okay.
that great.
Yeah.
Right? He's done it. He's like the Sherlock who's found it and he's destroyed this evil idol.
Right.
So it is this amazing, the Farooqi and Gardizi, these two chroniclers who are writing about this, they go ahead, to explain to us at great lengths as to how this idol was brought in. Also because Gujarat at that point in time was the center of Ismailis, who were the Shia, who were subsect of Shias. And there is this massive Shia-Sunni rivalry that always goes. So it completely makes sense that the Ismailis must have only gotten it here because they are the heretical sect. Right? Only they do all of these things. Then Ghazni goes and, breaks a lot of masjids, which are Shia masjids. So in this Shia center of Ray, etc. He is doing all this to look a good Muslim. He does not hate Hinduism. He does not hate Shiv. He just wants to come across as a Muslim who has broken, in his propaganda, he's broken the idol of Manat.
Right.
वो मनात से दुश्मनी निकाल रहा है. He's got no दुश्मनी which...
It's basically solidifying his own personal image. It's almost like this guy's a legend because he did that sort of a thing.
And he earns a lot of money while doing it.
Oh, okay.
So the Farooqi, Gardizi, Al-Baruni, etc. tell us that he earned around 20 million dinars from looting Somnath.
Oh, shit. Okay. Huh.
He goes to Ray, he loots the books of those very good libraries of Ray. He earns around 30 million dinars from there. So it's propaganda, plus he's getting paid for that.
I mean, yeah, he's looting, basically.
Exactly.
He's looting. He's conquering and looting.
And his basic motive is to loot.
Yeah.
But if it gives him propaganda and if it gives him a good yay from the theologians, etc. in his court, then why not?
Yeah. Audience, I must tell you that I have spoken to Ruchika on multiple occasions now, and whenever she starts talking, I am mesmerized. Because she jumps from one thing to the other so quickly, and it's also fascinating. Because one thing that I wanted to also highlight in this one, when we are talking about something like a Mughal period, right? What you manage to do for me is build an environment in my head when these events are taking place, which I feel is so absent in history, right? For example, we are talking about, we'll start now basically, we'll start with Babar, obviously, right? Yeah. And I found this thing out that the whole reason why Mughals were called Mughals is because they are a descendant of Mongols, and it's a Persian way of saying Mongols.
So the first time the term Mughal comes up is by the British.
By the British,
Yeah.
So even they didn't describe themselves as Mughals, right? They were...
In fact, they went to great lengths to distance themselves from it because Mongols are considered uncouth.
Yes.
They were barbaric rulers,
Yeah.
right? So Genghis Khan must have been a great warrior and everything.
So Babar was the descendant of Genghis Khan and
And Timur.
Timur. Yeah, Timur, yeah.
So he's from his mother's side, he's a Chengizi Mongol, and from his father's side, he's a Timurid.
Right.
Right? And this particular thing, when Akbar is getting it written in his Akbarnama, he goes on to write, gets his court chronicler Abul Fazl to write 6 pages about his Timurid heritage. He's very proud of it.
Yeah.
He's from Timur, this great guy who went from rags to riches. His father was a small person in the court of, Samarkand, etc. And this person became so amazing. And only 1 page on Mongols. He's clearly trying to hide his Mongol ancestry.
Because Genghis Khan was a evil guy. I mean, he was a barbarian, right? It's like, he was a barbarian.
He's considered a barbarian. Because I also have a problem with this word in itself. Because it creates this idea that somehow somebody is civilizational and the other person is barbarian.
Fair, very
simply
fair.
because he doesn't follow the same custom as you.
It's the same way how the West is looking at Iran right now, almost.
It's the same way, for example, in Bollywood, they would, and I'm so glad this has stopped happening. Every time they wanted to depict quote-unquote tribals, they would go Jingalalahu, Jingalalahu.
Yes.
There's an entire song, Hum Bewafa, and then there is a whole, and they also show them dressed in skulls, etc. There is this very annoying idea in quote-unquote civilizational people that somebody who doesn't follow our ways is automatically barbaric and must be looked down upon.
Right.
So I think that is something that is happening with the Mongols.
And it also, like, in a very strange way, this can also apply to history in general because it was a different time. Like, I think people tend to forget that this was in 1526 where Babar emerges and comes to India and conquers and defeats the Lodhi kings, right? In Delhi. So this was 1526 we are talking about.
Exactly.
It's like so long ago. It's really difficult to build an image of what happened then. But can you help us do that? Because the beginning period and what was going on, the environment building as I call it, what was happening during that?
So at that point of time, in India is being ruled by this ruler called Ibrahim Lodi.
Yes.
But there is no
But what is India at this point of time?
So it's the Indian subcontinent. So you will have all of Pakistan, the current boundaries of India, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh. All of this is the subcontinent.
Myanmar is also included in that?
Very small parts of it, right? Myanmar, we had more of a cultural exchange because of trade.
Okay.
So you, for example, in Myanmar, in Burma, you will have temples which look exactly like Chola temples because you had during the Chola times massive trade happening over there. And you had plenty of, these Tamil populations who were settled over there. So you have these beautiful, very Chola-esque, massive gopurams, over there, temples. So coming back to the point, at that point of time, there is, in the Indian subcontinent, no one power in the northern Indian subcontinent.
Tiny princely states.
There are at least 3 to 4 big powers.
Okay.
One is, of course, Ibrahim Lodi. He's a pretty big power.
Which is Delhi Sultanate.
Which is largely the Delhi Sultanate. And then you have, from in the Rajasthan, Gujarat area, you have Rana Sanga, who's pretty powerful in his own rights. He does not only have Rajasthan, but he also has parts of Madhya Pradesh, Mandu, etc. Right? And then you have the Gujarat Sultanate, so Muzaffar Shah, right? Who's again a very powerful person in his own right. Rana Sanga rules over a confederacy of many of these smaller chieftains. Right? So I think there were 32 or maybe 33 chieftains that he rules over. That is his army. And these 3 are constantly fighting. Right? Ibrahim Lodi's time, by the way, had a very interesting time for India because at that point in time, the economy... so basically, just to quickly give you this, Lodis were... they didn't have a very common monarchical system. They had what is called as a tribal monarchical system wherein the ruler was primus inter pares, first amongst equal.
Okay.
Right? So he would get 10% if everyone else was getting 5%. It's not like he would have to get 90% and everybody else gets 5%. His power is only marginally above everyone else. And if he wants to take a decision, he will take a decision by, asking everybody.
Right.
Everybody had lands, every noble, Lodi noble had lands in perpetuity.
Okay.
Right? So they were not being, so that meant that if the land was not being transferred, you could really get a foothold over that particular area, right? That could threaten the ruler's rule. And at that point of time, the economy was such that there was a bumper harvest. So there was massive supply, but very little demand.
Oh.
Yeah, and we know about this because there is this person called Abbas Khan Sherwani. He's written Tarikh-e Sher Shahi, and he writes about a lot of this. And he says that this very interesting condition made gold and silver supremely cheap, but nobody had the money to buy gold and silver, right? Because if the supply is so much, then that means nobody is really buying the product. So, for example, if the supply of wheat is immense, nobody in the market wants to buy it because I also have it.
Yeah.
Right? And even if you have to buy it, you'll have to buy it in very cheap prices. So if I'm getting very cheap price for my wheat, I won't have the purchasing power parity, to buy basically gold and silver. Right? So for example, his most famous quote is Zarul Nukra Kam Yashud, which means gold and silver became less, which means their costs, massively came down. So that is what is happening at that point in time. Babar, on the other hand, is in Uzbekistan. He is battling his own problems because his brothers don't like him and they are trying to oust him. Right? So he has this, fraternal dispute and he is now looking for lands to settle down in. So he's already by this time come to Kabul. He's fought a few wars and he's got a pretty stronghold in Kabul.
He was in his 30s. No.
Early 30s, yes.
Early 30s, yeah.
Right? So he's in Kabul at that point of time. And what is happening between Rana Sanga and Ibrahim Lodi is very interesting. Rana Sanga has forever wanted to capture Delhi, right? But he has not been able to, simply because the Lodi army is immense.
Yeah.
Ibrahim Lodi, on the other hand, wants to defeat Rana Sanga, but it's been impossible for him to do that also because Rana Sanga keeps getting help from the rulers of Gujarat, etc. So then these two people, Rana Sanga and this particular Lodi governor of Punjab, Daulat Khan Lodi, both of them simultaneously send their envoys to Babar saying, why don't you come over here and defeat Ibrahim Lodi?
Oh.
And if you defeat Ibrahim Lodi, we will assist you.
Interesting.
Right?
Almost like a coup. Not really, but like a rebellion almost against this giant power center.
Exactly. Daulat Khan Lodi, again, is an uncle of Ibrahim Lodi, but he doesn't like Ibrahim Lodi. Also, they can see how badly the economy is functioning under Ibrahim Lodi.
Yeah.
Right? So they're just sort of blaming him for it. And they want to sort of move away, from the Lodi. And they think probably Babar would be able to help us. And at the same point of time, Rana Sanga is thinking, this man will come over here, he will defeat Ibrahim Lodi, and he is basically a nomadic person. He will go back. He will go back to Kabul.
Hilarious.
Right? So I will have the territories of Ibrahim Lodi.
Yes.
Right? It will be like a win-win.
Yeah.
Neither of these people know that the reason why Babar is being so successful in his many, many incursions now is because he has a secret ingredient, gunpowder.
Oh.
That these people have not used. Which is so sad because India had gunpowder, in fact has gunpowder at this point of time when we're talking about, 100 years before that as well.
Oh.
It's being traded by the Vijayanagar kingdom.
Okay.
But they haven't realized what a top this is, quite literally, right? And that they can literally change, the entire warfare game of India. But they're just trading in it. They don't build the forts for it. They don't build the ramparts for it, right? Neither does the Bijapur Sultanates. None of these people realize how important this is. But this person does, because at that point, in Uzbekistan, etc., this is all very famous, right? So this is very well done.
It's almost like he brought in a technological disruption.
He did.
It's like B-2 bomber going to Iran sort of situation right now. Yeah.
He really did.
Bunker buster bombs. Yeah.
Right? And this person, so these people are now thinking, we've invited him, he'll come. This person is thinking, Rana Sanga is thinking, ye wapas chala jayega, I'll have all these lands. So he comes. Rana Sanga at the very last moment decides to not support him. Babar Nama says, what a guy. He got me all the way here, and now when I'm at the precipice of war, he's decided not to support me because his confederates said, you don't have to do this. He will win this war, and he will go away. Why will you waste your forces? Right? So Babar comes and Babar defeats Ibrahim Lodi summarily. He uses this very ingenious kind of method of warfare called the Rumi defense. He learnt it from the Ottomans. So now, in order to fire, guns, etc., you need to have proper forts for it, which have that gun holder, that tiny thing that you make, the bastions, etc., that you make. He doesn't have any access to forts over here. And even if he did, those forts will not have that because we don't have the technology.
Yeah.
So what he does is he gets these carts, right, puts them together, and then he puts these breastplates that, soldiers wear together, and uske beech mein the space, he gets his guns to be placed over there.
Oh.
And then those guns break forts.
Oh, damn.
So it's very easy. It's like a cakewalk for him to defeat Ibrahim Lodi, right? Having done that, Rana Sanga is thinking he'll go back, but he doesn't. Babar's too comfortable here now. He's got another foothold, which is Delhi.
And he was looking for land to settle anyway.
Exactly, right? So he's anyway looking for land, he's come to Delhi. So Rana Sanga is now getting agitated. So he wages the war against Babar called the Battle of Khanwa. Babar writes in his Babarnama that the person who called me to India is now standing against me in war. Right? So sort of reflecting on this very philosophical idea of, who was once my ally is now my... And again, the same thing. Rana Sanga, by the way, fascinatingly has Ibrahim Lodi's brother supporting him, Mahmud Lodi, against Babar, right? And, he has this very powerful ruler called Hakim Khan, etc., who's also supporting him. And also the Sultan of Gujarat, but he loses. Rana Sanga loses. And, there are different kinds of sources. One source says that he got injured and eventually died of infection, sepsis, etc. Some people say that he died on the battlefield, etc. And then from there on, Babar becomes the most powerful force in northern India.
And for 4 years he's there.
4 years he's there.
4 years he's there, and then comes Humayun.
Then comes
his
Humayun.
son.
His son.
So Babur is like the establishing Mughal.
Yes, he certainly did establish the empire.
He established the empire.
Yes.
And Humayun started expanding it.
He did try to, but he was cut short.
Because he fell down the stairs.
No.
No.
He was cut short by my favorite ruler in the Indian subcontinent, Sher.
Okay, go on.
Right? He's an Afghan warlord.
So Humayun was one of the brothers, right? Humayun was an only child of Babar?
No. Humayun's, no, there were two more, right? So there were many others. But Humayun is clearly the eldest.
Okay.
Right? His name is also, by the way, very interesting. Humayun is the person on whom the shadow of the Huma bird is. The Huma bird is this very mythical, almost, phoenix-like sort of creature. Although phoenix exactly in Farsi is Simurg. But, and if that shadow falls on you, then that means you're very fortunate. That's his name, Humayun, a fascinating name. So Humayun starts expanding. But the biggest challenge that he faces during his time is this, initially a very small warlord, Afghan warlord from Sasaram in Bihar, this Bihari guy, called Farid Khan.
Okay.
Right? But Farid Khan has high ambitions, right? So from this small revenue estate of Sasaram, he builds a very formidable army. Apparently, again, we know this from his own chronicler, so let's take this with a pinch of salt. He was somebody who followed a very strict code of conduct. So he would pay his soldiers directly in cash and not in kind.
Okay.
Now, that's always a very good thing, because in kind would mean that the soldier will have to do all the drama of, getting the land tilled, collecting the revenue, and then, using it, right? If you are getting directly paid in cash, you don't have to do anything. That's your money in hand, right? In kind also, you don't know if you'll get the right price for your harvest or not, and your salary might fluctuate. But in cash, it's like fixed. So apparently, he was paying in cash. He had a proper code. So whenever they would go on war, there would be like this very formidable drill that the soldiers would do, which would very massively intimidate the other party who's looking at this drill, and they were very dedicated. And at 50, he was like the biggest Afghan warlord. Everybody wanted to work for him. He had a lot of these very powerful and rich wives as well who invested in his venture. And he finally defeats Humayun on two very important battles. One is the Battle of Rohtas, which is a fascinating battle, which was so famous that later Malik Muhammad Jaisi, when he's writing his Padmavat, will use the Battle of Rohtas in his fictional story of Padmavat.
Okay.
Right? People must have seen it in the movie. So what Sher Shah did was, he basically dressed his soldiers as, these court ladies and got them into these dolas, these palanquins. Now, one of the things is the dolas are not really checked.
Right.
Because, you don't want to see the face of the ladies or whatever, right? There's modesty. So these dolas then go inside the fort of Rohtas. And immediately, once they're inside, the soldiers go out and they capture it. So he had this very ingenious idea. And Padmavat they write the exact same thing, that this is how Padmini rescued Ratan Singh, right? And because Padmavat is being written during the time of Sher Shah.
Oh,
Malik
interesting.
Muhammad, 1556.
Yeah.
So, Malik Muhammad Jaisi is very impressed by Sher Shah at that point of time. And then the battle for Bengal, which at that point in time is very, very Gaur, basically, is the kingdom as it is called. Extremely rich. Apparently, Abbas Khan Shirwani says that over there, after having defeated Humayun, Sher Shah found like a very ancient treasure or something like that, which made him immensely rich. Right? He found like a lot of buried money, etc. in Gaur, in the palace of Gaur, which made him massively rich. That Humayun, who had the fort for such a long time, was not able to get it. This guy went in and somehow got it, right? So for 10 years, this guy rules. He sends Humayun in exile. Humayun has to go to his wife's Maika in Iran, right? Taking little Akbar and the other couple of children of Humayun, right? So they all sort of go and they stay in Iran for 10 years. And for 10 years, Humayun knows it's a good thing that he doesn't come back, because Sher Shah would not let him. He's a very powerful ruler. He's the person who, innovated the rupiah, right? He's the person who built the Grand Trunk Road. This uninterrupted road from Peshawar all the way to Calcutta. Right? It goes
the trade route,
right? So which became a very famous land route after that also, because it was now so much easier to sort of travel. So he's also the person that later Akbar would copy for his Mansabdari system. This fascinating Zabt system that he innovated, wherein in order to fix revenue for a particular piece of land, you wouldn't just randomly fix it. You would take the averages of past 10 years.
Okay.
So if I want to fix the revenue of 2025, I will see what was the yield for 2024, what was the yield for 2023, and so on and so forth. For 10 years, I will take the average of that.
Right.
Law of averages, right? Which is how a lot of forecasting is done even today. Right? So weather forecasting, a lot of this is done like that. And that's how he gets to a ballpark that, this is where the yield would be this year as well, until unless there is some very, weird kind of climate.
Natural calamity or something.
So, and then on that, if you fix the revenue, you are likely to realize the revenue which is closer to your estimate than otherwise, right? So, he's a very smart guy, and then, helped the Mughals later on as well, because they, copied the system. Then Islam Shah comes in, who's Sher Shah's son, but, he's not very good. Humayun comes back, it's his opportunity, defeats him, starts building in Delhi what is called as now the Purana Killa.
Purana Killa, yeah.
Right? At that point in time, he named it Deen Pana, which means the abode of the faith. And he builds this, what is called as Sher Mandal, this observatory, right? And he loves looking at stars. Humayun is like completely mesmerized by it. So he is in his observatory looking at star, and then there is a call for the azan. So he wants to quickly make it in time, and he tumbles. So if you've seen the Sher Mandal, it's like a huge, there are many stairs.
Yeah.
So poor guy takes a tumble and hits his, I think he breaks his neck, which sort of connects it with the spine. And then I think 3-4 days after, he dies. Fascinatingly, and when I say it, sort of this just comes into my mind. This is exactly how many years ago Kutubuddin Aibak died.
Oh,
He didn't take a tumble. He was playing what is called as Chaugan, polo, like a very early form of polo. And he falls off from his horse and again breaks his neck.
Oh,
here.
damn.
And 3-4 days later dies.
okay.
Right? So it's a sudden death.
But was it so? Babar and Humayun, both of them. Would you consider them as kind kings, benevolent kings? What sort of kings were they? Like, I mean, just like if you had to like paint them with like a brush.
No king is benevolent, no king is kind. All kings will tax, and they will tax unjustly.
Okay.
That in itself does
Fair.
not make them kind or
Fair.
benevolent, right? They are taxing peasants.
Yeah.
And Mughal Empire during its peak, which is under Akbar, is taxing something around 40% of the revenue.
Oh, damn.
Right? Irfan Habib says the lion's share of the revenue was appropriated by the Mughal Empire. So
Like right now. Like right now. Yeah. So, fair. Okay.
yeah. Exactly like that, right? So they would have a massive amount of revenue. So calling them kind of benevolent, I would say is not, correct. But that also does not mean that they're necessarily evil. They are kings. And like all kings, they will take every decision according to their own power benefits, their own political benefit.
And they were in conquering mode anyway.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, ye baju wala land, and like, how do we get
Exactly.
into that? How do we defeat that other king?
Exactly. But that also does not mean that they would not do a lot of public work. They would. Because that goes with their kingly
Of
image.
course, yeah.
Right? So I will get a road built. I will, if there is a famine, I will give them famine relief. Right? I will make sure that they, I will open up my granaries, they are fed or whatever. Right? I will dispense justice.
Yes.
Adl was a very important aspect of the Mughal Empire. If you look at, for example, the paintings of the Mughal Empire, especially under Akbar and then under Jahangir, one of this motif, which is a very common motif in Mughal paintings, the lion and the lamb motif. You would have this massive lion, and just next to the lion is a small, very cute-looking lamb, and they're both cuddling. Right? The idea is that Mughal Empire is so just that the powerful and the powerless can exist together peacefully.
Oh.
Right? So that's a symbol of their adl, their
Okay.
justice. Right? So that was very important. So he will dispense justice, etc. So they would do public works because it again is something that benefits their kingly image.
Correct.
Right? They are again not doing it because these are not people who have to get elected tomorrow.
Yeah,
So they
Or
don't-
legacy is all they have. Like how.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? It's all about how they are perceived by their nobles, how they are perceived by people who matter, people in power. Because, if, for example, tomorrow there is a mutiny by the nobles, then the king would be genuinely in trouble, right? But if the nobles think, he's a good king.
Also, I think projecting strength was also important back then because, like as you said, Sher Shah Suri.
Exactly.
The whole reason why he was so powerful is because people also saw him as powerful, and Humayun stayed away till he died.
I mean, coercion, force is the mainstay of a monarchy.
Of course.
Right? Without that, the monarchy would just not exist. You have to exercise plenty of coercion, plenty of force. So, for example, the Mughal Empire, the reason why everybody says, oh, yes, to the Mughal emperor is because they have an army which is so formidable, it's literally undefeated on the plain areas. It takes somebody like a Shivaji to do a guerrilla warfare, and then before him, Malik Ambar, who taught Shivaji's father.
Shivaji came after Akbar, right?
No, Shivaji comes, this is after
Aurangzeb ke
Jahan.
time pe. Aurangzeb ke time
After
pe.
Jahangir, around Shah Jahan's time is when Shivaji. But during Jahangir's time, you have Malik Ambar, and in Malik Ambar's army, he's this
Wait, before we go there.
Yeah.
We have to come to Akbar also. Beech mein ka chapter hai. So, Humayun tumbles and dies.
Tumbles and dies.
I always found that fascinating. Sorry. No disrespect, but hilarious. Now, Akbar comes in. Akbar is, I feel like, the peak of Mughal Empire.
He is.
Right. Akbar expands massively. Akbar
Consolidates.
But also, Akbar is he's illiterate himself, is what I've read. And the second thing is he develops insane ways to govern his giant, massive empire.
Yeah.
Right? And one of them is Dine-e-Ilahi.
Yeah.
Relevant today. Yeah, if you can tell us about that a little bit.
Both of these are actually incorrect. He's not illiterate.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But he wants to project that he's illiterate. So that's a very interesting thing what Akbar is
Really?
doing. Yeah.
This is one of these common myths, no? Which is sort of perpetrated into
because
your
Akbar
head.
wanted it. He wanted
Damn.
people to believe he's illiterate.
That's
I'll
a
tell you why.
long-lasting myth then. It took a
Exactly.
Ruchika Sharma to debunk that now in 2025.
No, I think academics have done that. But the reason why he is, the reason why he cannot have been illiterate is because he spent the formative years of his life in his mother's house in Iran. And Iran is the center of knowledge.
Right.
And he is the son of a Mughal emperor. So obviously the first thing that they will do is teach him. Because it's so important to be seen, especially by, the Mughals, as somebody who patronizes knowledge, who wants knowledge, who's curious, who's smart, who's intellectual. Right? So even if you look at, for example, the ideal rulers, these mythical rulers like Jamshed and Khusro Anushirwan and all of these, they were constantly projected as very smart rulers. They're very intelligent. They have huge libraries. Akbar goes ahead and does a lot of this as well. He gets a lot of books translated, right? Because he wants to be seen as somebody who is, patronizing literacy.
Correct.
But personally, he wants to be seen as illiterate because Akbar's time is a very interesting time in the Islamic world. During Akbar's time, 1,000 years of Islam are going to be completed.
Oh, interesting.
According to the Hijri calendar. Right? So 990 AH is Anno Hijri, 991 AH, all of these time periods come. And there is this, at that point in time, this very famous myth that, 1,000 years of Islam is when the day of judgment will come. Qayamat ka din, right? And before that, there'll be a Mahdi, a prophet, who will lead us on the right path so that on the day of judgment, all of us can go to Jannat.
All right.
Right? And when, these years are being completed, 1,000 is being approached, Akbar has it in his head, he's the Mahdi.
Damn.
Right?
And Messiah complex proper.
Massively, right? And there are many things that make him believe that. For example, he gets it written in his Akbarnama that somebody who can control the elephants is, has this very divine right to rule. And he, everywhere he goes, by the way, every fort that has been built by Akbar, every Mughal fort, has a Hathi gate, a Hathi pole, where you'll have these two elephants. So he's fascinated by elephants, right? He thinks that because he can control elephants...
He had a giant number of elephants in his army
Yes,
also,
he
right?
did. So there is a scene in Jodha Akbar where he's fighting, the elephant. I don't know if Akbar actually did fight an elephant, but there are paintings upon paintings where he would go and, he's shown as inspecting an elephant or he's acquiring an elephant. So he considered elephants to be, these sort of quasi-divine beings, and if you are very close to them, if they let you close enough, then that means you are also very divine.
Dude, Anant Ambani will relate so hard right now. It's just, I was just thinking, like, sorry, but...
Vantara.
Yeah, Vantara. Anyway, go on.
So this guy, then he also has this idea, and this is where he uses his Mongol lineage. There is this legend that the Mongol queen Alankua was, had this immaculate conception.
Okay.
Like Mary did.
Oh, wow.
Right? And she was impregnated by a single ray of the sun.
Okay.
Which this person calls Fare Izzati. Right? Which means divine light. The concept is not original. The concept comes from Ibn al-Arabi, who was, this fascinating Arab philosopher. Anyway, he takes that. And he says that from that queen, Mongol queen Alankua, it has come to me, the divine light. I am the recipient of the divine light. And you are going to have to look at me in the Jahangir darshan in order to get the divine light. And the thing with, stuff like this is faith healing, right? So if I've seen the emperor, in the Jahangir darshan, and tomorrow my son, magically becomes okay. Because with fever, if it's just a normal fever, it will eventually go away, right?
Right.
Then I will tell 5 other people that, oh my God, I looked at the emperor and my son became all right.
Oh, wow. Oh,
So then 7 more people will go and look at the emperor.
So Akbar was sort of like a mythical figure also for that time.
He wanted
to be. Like he projected himself that way.
And then he has a lot of these panegyrists, like Abul Fazl himself, who's written Akbarnama, who loved Akbar. So the introduction for Akbar every time is massively large. The recipient of divine light, the source of all justice, this, that, and the other. Then Akbar has this massive battle with the clergy, who think that what is he doing? He's not a very good Muslim ruler.
Yeah.
Right? Firstly, he comes and, bans the jizya. Right? Which is a historical tax. It's been going on for a very long time. It's not just India, it's, gone on in Iran, etc.
This is the tax on specifically non-Muslims.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right?
Again, like I love this fact which I learned is that first time I was told about jizya, it was always a tax on Hindus. Then I realized, but Hindus were not the only people who existed, right?
Exactly.
It was all non-Hindus.
And it's not just in India.
Non-Muslims, my bad, yeah.
It's not just in India. It existed in Iran
Yes,
as well,
yeah.
right? Wherever these people are, wherever the Muslim rulers are, they will impose jizya on the non-Muslims.
Non-Muslims,
right? It's a protectorate tax, right? Applied on what is in Arabic called dhimmis and in Farsi called zimmis, jinka apne zimma liya ho, zimmedari, responsibility. Right? You are responsible for them, so they'll have to pay you a tax. So he thinks that this is a tax which is discriminatory, and he bans this. 1563 also bans the pilgrimage tax, the Hajj tax.
The Hajj tax, yeah.
Right? And then, when he realizes the clergy are not happy with him, he reimposes the taxes. Jizya is reimposed under Akbar in 1575. Right? And then he still realizes that the clergy are not very happy with him because he's a very eclectic person, right? So he's going and holding these Ibadat Khana debates. Which brings me to the second point. He didn't start any religion called Deen-e-Ilahi.
Oh, he didn't?
This is a mistranslation on the part of the person who translated Akbarnama, Henry Beveridge. And he read Deen-e-Ilahi to be this new religion when all it meant was divine monotheism. It was a philosophy that Abul Fazl is talking about. He doesn't say Akbar promulgated it or anything like that. Akbar didn't start any new religion. What he did start was a cult, a personality cult.
Damn.
He's like, almost like a, Kurt Cobain of his time or whatever. People would think, oh, wow. Akbar sir, so cool. Mehdi, he's going to lead us to. So, and then he goes ahead and very fascinatingly takes it up with the theologians as well. He says, you guys don't have the right to interpret Quran. The sole right lies with me. I am the supreme mujtahid, which means interpreter of the Quran. Right?
He was rewriting history.
My word is basically the final word.
Damn.
So if I say this is what is happening in the Quran and I'm a ulema, I'm a Maulana, Akbar can say no, this is what is happening and you will have to agree to Akbar.
Okay.
Right? And then he's of course holding all these debates, etc. And then he goes ahead and he creates this whole philosophy of religion where he thinks that, people should use their brains more, aql over taqleed. And in this manner, what he's trying to do is constantly evoking the Prophet Muhammad. Muhammad was an illiterate. So he wants to be seen as an illiterate.
Oh, that's the connection. Damn.
Right?
Yeah.
So he wants to be seen as an illiterate because he wants people to believe, those Muslims who will understand the connect, that, same. He was
same
also
to same. Messiah.
Exactly.
Both yeah.
Right? So he is deliberately trying to create this. But there is also this particular, we are not very sure, in fact, it's probably not written by Akbar, but it's a couplet attributed to Akbar written in Braj, which says, Prithal su majlis kai, tansen su rag, hasbo rambo bolbo gaya veervar saath. He's talking about his friends, the gala time that he used to have with his friends. Prithal is Prithiraj, one of his Nauratn, court poet, who wrote, on Krishna, etc. Krishna Rukmani Rebeli is one of his favorite poems. He says, Prithal su majlis kai. When Prithal went away, he died, my majlis went with him. The majlis that I used to have, poets, etc. Tansen Surag. When Tansen died, my music went with him.
Right.
Hasbo Rambo Bolbo Gaya Veervar Saath. Birbal. Right? When Birbal went away, my Hasna, Ramna and Bolbo, the kind of camaraderie that I shared with Birbal has gone away. So it's possibly a Soratha, Soratha is a 4-line couplet. 4-line Katrain, which is attributed to Akbar, but possibly not by Akbar. And also the fact that, Akbar, for example, in this translation of the Mahabharata, when he's getting it done, the chief translator, Naqib Khan, Akbar gives him a full summary of the Mahabharata.
Really?
Yeah. Naqib Khan himself says that that His Majesty would hold sessions with me where he would explain the Mahabharata to me. So he is clearly somebody who knew how to read and write. But this must go out that he didn't know how to read and write.
Damn. Okay.
Right?
But he did expand the Mughal Empire massively.
Yes.
Also, now that I think of it, the man was kind of a genius, manipulator, marketer.
He's a smart guy.
Smart guy, very smart guy. And then he gave it to Jahangir. Jahangir comes after that.
Yes.
This is, would you say that Akbar ke baad it started going down?
That is my personal opinion.
Yeah.
But a lot of academics don't see it that way.
Okay.
I think it started with Jahangir. But, this is something that has been revised. And a lot of people think that, this is... Anyway, this has got nothing to do with the ruler. This has got more to do with the institutional failure of systems like Mansabdari, etc. So blaming one ruler is not anyway historically
Again,
correct.
the environment matters. Yeah.
Right. But, the legacy that Akbar built of the Mughal Empire was something that went unchallenged all the way till Aurangzeb died. That
All the
much
way till
is for sure. There must have been problems within the empire, financial problems especially, but that did not mean that the Mughal Empire was any less important, did not have the legacy that it had during Akbar's time. And this is where Aurangzeb becomes very important. I'll come to it when we come to it. But only somebody like him could have held together the empire, given how many difficulties the empire had at that point. Right? Right? But Jahangir comes to power with a very interesting, twist to the tale, where he is no longer seen. So he is the blue-eyed boy of Akbar for the longest time. He's the first child. Before this, Akbar had 2 kids who died within 1 month of being born. 1564 is, when both of these poor souls die. And then he does not have a child for a very long time. So he goes to Sheikh Salim Chishti, right, in Agra. And he says, I'm not having a child or whatever. And Sheikh Salim Chishti says, okay, I think you'll have a child by the end of this year or whatever. That's exactly what happens.
Okay.
Right? So his wife becomes pregnant. And Akbar is convinced that, Salim Chishti is he's the real deal. He's given me the heir to the throne. So he starts building his capital in Fatehpur Sikri.
Right.
And when the child is born, he calls him Salim. And gives the Rajput princess that he's married to, Bharmal Kachwaha's daughter, the title of Maryam Uz-Zamani, Mary of her times, right? Because, she's birthed this proverbial Jesus.
Yes.
So names it Salim and calls him Sheikhu Baba, which is like his endearing term, again taken from Sheikh Salim Chishti. And he has high hopes with Jahangir, but Jahangir, has problems with alcohol at a very early age.
Yeah.
Right?
He tries an assassination attempt on Akbar and stuff.
No. He declares Bagawat against him.
Revolt kar diya.
He does assassinate somebody, but it's not him. He assassinates Akbar's very, very good friend, Abul Fazl.
Abul Fazl. Right. Yeah.
Right? And he does not do it himself because, royalty is not supposed to spill fellow royal blood or whatever, right? So he gets somebody else to do it, Bir Singh Bundela. Bundelkhand and Orchha has been established by this guy,
Ah, interesting.
right? Extremely rich person, also because of the fact that he was Jahangir's Qasem Khas. And then Jahangir ruled for such a long time, so he had to repay the favor. So Bir Singh Bundela gets Abul Fazl killed. And Akbar writes a very heartfelt letter saying, what have you done? Do you realize? He's an old soul. Why did you kill him? He's done so much for me. I'm like very hurt. And it's very sad that, Akbar keeps pleading with him. So he goes to the Allahabad fort, Jahangir, and, shuts himself there and gets the khutbah read in his name, which is a sure-shot sign of Bagawat against the ruler. Because khutbah is a sermon that is read only in the emperor's name, right? But he gets it read in his name, Jahangir's name.
Correct.
So sending very clear signals. Akbar wanted the throne to skip a line and go to Jahangir's son, Khosrow, who was this blue-eyed boy of Akbar. He had taught him everything he knew.
His grandson is
His grandson. Akbar taught him everything he knew, all his administration. He can see he's a very intelligent guy. But Jahangir just won't let that happen. He doesn't want the throne to skip. And Akbar keeps writing to him, saying, I am ill. I don't know how much time I have left. You should come and meet me. But Sheikhu Baba is like, no. If I go there, then I am certainly going to be defeated because, you cannot defeat the whole Lav Lashkar of people.
Right.
But Akbar also, because he's a softy at heart, does not send the full force against Jahangir ever. If he wanted, he could totally have done that. Brought down the Allahabad fort with his guns and brought Jahangir to his knees. But he never does that. Because, he's like, I've got this boy after such a long time, Like, he's at the end of the day a father.
Yeah.
Right? And it really comes across in his letters like that. And then Jahangir comes to power. And he is a raging alcoholic, so much so that in his Jahangir Nama, he says, after a while, the wine had no effect on me.
Oh, wow.
So he started taking opium.
Drugs.
Afim, right? So, but like, Jahangir is the person who conquered alcohol. Like, alcohol had nothing on him. So then he went on to Afim, opium, right? And he basically reaped the benefits of Akbar's rule. Because Akbar had done a lot in his rule. He had also another thing that made him feel like he's the Mahdi is he had won every war that he had fought. Every war. So he clearly had it in his head that he was divine. So, because he had a huge empire, because the Mansabdari system was working fine during Jahangir's time, it was great. But Jahangir made a few mistakes. Firstly, he over-promoted a lot of the Mansabdars, right? Gave a lot of promotions because he had to say thank you to a lot of the people who had helped him get the throne. Who had done the dirty work for him. So one is, of course, Bir Singh Bundela. Then Noor Jahan's first husband, this person called Ali Kuli Istajlu, who was a good friend of Khusro, right? He got him killed as well. Because by the time Jahangir is coming to power, Khusro is realizing this was to be my throne.
Yeah.
I should now, unseat my father. So he goes and does a Bagawat against Jahangir.
Oh, immediately.
Right?
Oh, damn, okay.
Very quickly. Not immediately, but pretty quickly. And then Jahangir writes in his memoirs, now I know how my father must have felt. I'm like, yes.
Karma biting him in the ass.
Literally. In the same way. Exact same way. But Jahangir is not as forgiving as his father.
Okay.
He goes to Khusro with a full blazing army in Agra, defeats that poor lad and his two, confederates, and does something terrible to the two people who were supporting him, gets them wrapped in ox skin, and parades them in hot blazing June ka Agra sun.
Okay.
So what happens is when, you have, skin separate from the body, there's no blood flow or whatever, skin starts to shrivel up.
Okay.
So if you have a person wrapped in that skin and the skin is shriveling up, so it basically
it's like constricting you,
suffocating
you.
It constricts your lungs, it constricts your diaphragm. You basically die very painful.
Okay.
Right? So he gets that done. And Khusro, he blinds. He doesn't kill, obviously, firstly his own son. And secondly, again, this Turco-Mongol taboo of not spilling royal blood. just gets him blinded, because there is also this Turco-Mongol taboo that if you're not physically, able, then you cannot become a ruler.
King.
So Khusro's dreams of becoming a ruler are finished. So obviously the next ruler is Khurram.
Shah Jahan. Well, like
Khurram is his
Khurram.
name,
Yeah. His name is Shihab al-Din Muhammad Khurram.
Correct.
Right in my notes.
Got this
yes,
right.
Yes.
So then Jahangir comes to power, and this is what happens. Noor Jahan also, by the way, a lot of people skip her. They immediately go to Shah Jahan, but I think Noor Jahan ruled in her own way, fascinatingly.
Right.
Jahangir himself says that, she's so smart and so able that, I have, because Jahangir obviously, because you've abused your body so much with alcohol and afim, he had clearly a liver disease. So he was dying because of that, as some sort of a cirrhosis. So he knew that he was dying, but he was still not ready to give up. He had reduced his intake of wine, but he was not giving it up. And he says that, Noor Jahan takes better care of me than the Hakims, etc. do. She makes the preparations of food, etc., which I find more palatable or whatever, because his liver is not working very well. So he obviously cannot eat the kind of food that a king would. Right. So Noor Jahan then rules de facto for, I think, 7 to 8 years. She mints coins in her own name. She has the royal stamp, the Mughal stamp. And she also creates this very powerful junta of sorts, which favors her. Her father and her brother are probably the most powerful men in Jahangir's time. Asaf Jah and this person called Itmad-ud-Dawla, he had gotten a title. Noor Jahan gets a huge tomb made for her father, which I believe is much more gorgeous than the Taj. People go to the Taj. It's just, I think, 3 or 4 kilometers away from the Taj. They don't go to the Itmad-ud-Dawla tomb. It is gorgeous. It has some beautiful Pietra Dura, and it also has the Bangla roof. You see, so Noor Jahan's earlier husband, Ali Kulis Tajlu, had the Mansabdari of Rajmahal.
Okay.
So she had seen these, Charchala roof, this Bangla roof, right? Which basically imitates a Bengali hut, which after Jahangir and during Jahangir became very popular style, right?
What is this tomb called exactly?
Tomb of Itmad-ud-Dawla.
Itmad-ud-Dawla. Okay.
Itmad-ud-Dawla was the title, which is given to Jahangir.
And it's close to Taj Mahal.
It's very close to Taj Mahal. It's 4 kilometers away. You'll have to take a rickshaw that they, sort of keep plying.
Oh,
from
damn.
Taj
I did not know this. Next time I go to Agra.
Itmad-ud-Dawla ka tomb le jaiye, they'll take you. So this is Noor Jahan. And then, of course, comes Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan has to distance himself away from Noor Jahan in order to, come to power. Because firstly, Noor Jahan wanted her only daughter, Ladli Begum, to marry Shah Jahan. But Shah Jahan did not want to. Shah Jahan married Noor Jahan's niece instead, Arjumand Mumtaz. And of course, there is lots of tales about that. How they met each other. By the way, fascinatingly, the rumor for how Jahangir and Noor Jahan met is the same as how Shah Jahan and Mumtaz met.
Okay.
They met at the Meena Bazaar, where she was selling something, and she was so fair that when she would have pan and she would, sort of take it inside, then this entire thing would get red. She had like some transparent porcelain skin.
So random.
And how is that even beautiful?
Yes, no,
I just would find that ugly.
Disgusting.
Yeah. I don't want your pan spit to be visible.
Yeah.
But anyway, somehow that was the marker of beauty at that point of time or whatever. And just this story going around with the same ruler, same set of love affair or whatever, shows you that this story clearly didn't exist. For all this love affair of Noor Jahan and Jahangir mentions his marriage with Noor Jahan with one line. This date I married, Mehrun Nisa Begum, which is her name, and she received this title. So there's nothing more about this. This idea that somehow they had these huge love stories or whatever is a crazy idea. Shah Jahan's time actually saw a lot of problems with the Mughal Empire. Firstly, Shah Jahan realized that Jahangir had given over promotions, and on paper the army that they had was not the army that they needed. It was also not the army that they actually had, right? So what he wanted to actually do is to reduce the amount of money which was going to a lot of these mansabdars, but he could not have reduced their Zaat rank. So in Mansabdar, you have these two ranks, Zaat and Sawar. Zaat is your status rank, your salary. You get a tankha for it. And then for the Sawar rank, you get another salary called Tabinan, which means this is the amount of horses that you are supposed to, that every noble, that every Mansabdar is supposed to hold for the Mughal army. Right? So what he did was, if he would reduce the Zaat rank, the noble would be like, what have I done? Why are you reducing my rank? Because it's a huge thing. So what he did was reduce Sawar rank. So that is some sort of money that they're sort of, saving. Then Deccan was a problematic frontier, starting with Jahangir again. Malik Akbar was this person from the Ahmednagar kingdom.
This was a point where Shah Jahan, Jahangir had expanded to the Deccan.
Yes.
Jahangir did it, right?
Akbar had done it.
Oh, Akbar had also done it.
Akbar had done it.
Okay.
It's just that, and this is a very common thing. Every time you expand to the Deccan, it stays quiet for the first 5 years and then goes belligerent. Then you have to go back again. This has happened with
Explains
Alauddin
a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
Explains a lot, actually. Yeah.
Alauddin Khalji, all of these rulers, Muhammad bin Tughlaq, it's been the same story. Because there's so much distance. You cannot control the Deccan sitting in Delhi. At least not effectively.
Yeah.
Right? So Shah Jahan had a lot of problems. Right? Deccan becomes a problematic frontier. You have this Malik Akbar guy who's this Ethiopian Abyssinian slave. He works for Ahmednagar and he teaches, by the way, Shivaji's father and grandfather, Maluji and Shahji, how to do guerrilla warfare. Which is how Shivaji learns it. And then becomes a problem for Aurangzeb. Right. See, like I said, the Mughal army on ground is undefeated. You cannot defeat them on the plains. They have a very efficient system. They are a huge army, 1 lakh, 2 lakh strong or whatever. They have great cavalry. They have elephants. They have, the people who are on foot, artillery, etc. Everything is good. Except they have never done this on the mountains. So this guy, first Malik Akbar did it and did it successfully, which is basically you would attack and then you would hide in the mountains.
Right.
The same
it's
thing.
Guerrilla warfare almost.
Exactly, right?
And Shivaji had perfected that
Shivaji
well.
had. Yeah. But that is because he learnt it from Malik Akbar. His father and grandfather learnt it from them. Right? And Shivaji then used it to perfection, so much so that the Mughal Empire was completely frustrated, calling him, by the way, Pahadi Chuha.
Oh.
That he basically, like a rat, hides in the hills after attacking us. Does not come, ekdam aage and, fights with us. Fascinatingly, then Aurangzeb has had enough. So he gets this person called Mirza Raja Jai Singh, who's a descendant of Man Singh, whose descendant, by the way, is Diya Kumari. So Jai Singh comes and captures Shivaji at Surat. And
sorry, I'm just interrupting here. So Shah Jahan ke baad, there is, of course, Aurangzeb.
Yeah.
Right? Aurangzeb comes to power. But at this point of time, I feel like Aurangzeb is, the craziest of them all. From my reading. Okay. I don't know what you have to say about that. But one of the reasons why I think he is also like one of these... The whole reason why Mughals are considered evil is because Shivaji, like he was like, Chhatrapati Shivaji is going at him and he's like going at him. The other thing is he was cruel in a lot of ways because he also like did a lot of sort of, how do I put it?
Cruel things.
Yes, cruel things. Like the temple thing you already spoke about, which is like he might not have destroyed 1,000 temples, but he did like try to sort of do imposition of Islam and all those things as well. But like one of his features, Aurangzeb's features, which makes him very cruel is, I believe I read this somewhere, you tell me, is his form of torture.
Okay.
Like he used to go around, conquer villages and whatever, and there was this specific way of, like he had built these contraptions which he used to torture people with. Again, I don't know if this is true. You tell me if it's true. But again, this is the thing which is, because of this one line, the Mughals were despots, and the immediate thing that comes is Aurangzeb was and he was the last of the Mughal kings, right?
Last of the great Mughals.
The great Mughals, yeah. So you tell me, like, how much of this is true and how evil was he?
Well, I mean, again, I don't.
You
think-
don't use the word evil. Yeah.
I don't use the
He
word
was just
evil.
a king.
He was a king, right? And like all kings, his policies were good and bad, right? So Aurangzeb had plenty of bad policies, etc. For example, reimposing the jizya. But he
Yes.
had a reason for it, right? For example, during his time, finances are falling down for the Mughal Empire. Deccan is like this, massive drain on the Mughal Empire's treasury because there's so much money that needs to be put for these, recalcitrant elements like Shivaji, etc., to be put down. That was the same with Shah Jahan. Also, Shah Jahan had spent a lot on building projects, etc. So then Aurangzeb had to, sort of really manage the dwindling finances. So reimposing jizya would give him some money. Reimposing the Hajj tax would give him some money. He did both of these, right?
Oh shit! So Shah Jahan and his whole Taj Mahal, Red Fort, all the buildings and the projects,
Yeah.
sort of bankrupted them enough to.
It did cause a lot of problems financially for the Mughals.
Interesting, and that is why Aurangzeb had to bring in more tax.
Correct. In fact, even Shah Jahan reimposed jizya. Many people don't know this.
Fair enough. Okay.
So after Akbar banned jizya again in 1579, it stayed banned till Shah Jahan.
Okay.
Then Shah Jahan did it. Shah Jahan was the first person to very interestingly, and J.F. Richards has a whole theory about this, use Islam in a very interesting way, wherein he's using Islam as a unifying force because he knows that a lot of, these elements, etc., down south in the Deccan are against the Mughal Empire. So he is using Islam so that a lot of the nobles, etc., stick together, stick for the Mughal Empire, right? It's almost a cry for help. And this is exactly what Aurangzeb takes forward. It's fascinating that, Aurangzeb becomes the poster boy for this when actually it was started by Shah Jahan. And Aurangzeb just took this forward,
Interesting.
right? But did Aurangzeb break a lot of temples? Well, if you just look at Richard Eaton's calculation, he only broke 10 temples, right? Which again, as I keep saying, if you compare it with, somebody like Shashank, who said, I'll, bring down all the different kinds of Buddhist monasteries ever to exist. If you look at King Harsha, right? Then it really pales in front of these people. The fact that he only brought down 10 temples. But he also actually patronized a lot of temples.
Okay.
He got like 3 temples, so he got built. We have inscriptional evidence to prove that. There is this temple called the Gopinath Temple in Gopamau, which he built. There is an inscription over there, 1699, saying, Aurangzeb paid the money for the tank in the temple to be built. Then you have Chitrakoot, Ayodhya. There is a huge, farman over there in Farsi, dated to Aurangzeb. And it says that, Aurangzeb paid the money to build this particular temple and also gave grants to the Mahant. Mahant Balakdas Nirvani is his name. Right? Then you have Dauji Maharaj temple, again in UP. Similarly, Aurangzeb is said to have, and there is a farman over there. Right? There are so many saints that he's patronizing. Jains, for example. Now, there is this book called the Brahma Vilas, which is which was written in 1700. And then there is another book called Padmanandi Panchavishika. Both of these Jain texts say that there is so much religious tolerance in Aurangzeb's time.
What?
Yeah, so if you just consider the evidence, Aurangzeb comes across as a very different person than what popularly, he's made out to be. And that's primarily because, what started off with the colonial people, that, there is a good Mughal, which is Akbar, and then there is a bad Mughal, which is Aurangzeb. Right? And then, since then, once you've characterized somebody as the bad Mughal, then you're not going to look for evidence that, could he maybe not have been the bad Mughal? Maybe there were, things that he did which go against his popular image. But nobody's really done that. I mean, academically, a lot of it has happened. Right? Similarly, if you look at Aurangzeb, Aurangzeb is not going in fighting Shivaji. People are doing it for him. 33% of his workforce is Rajput.
Yes.
Right? Who gets the treaty of Purandar signed with Shivaji? Jai Singh. Mirza Raja Jai Singh, his right-hand man, who does all his... similarly with Tanaji, Udheban Rathore is the noble from Aurangzeb's side who goes and captures Tanaji. Right? So, this idea that somehow he's the Muslim who's evil and he is going... No, there are so many Hindus working for him.
He was emperor with a lot of sub-noble kings who were also going around and doing their own thing.
His own nobility.
His own nobility, yeah.
It was started with Akbar of having a lot of Rajputs, matrimonial alliances, etc. But the highest number of Rajputs in the Mughal workforce were under Aurangzeb, 33%. Right? So I would say that I don't think of Aurangzeb as evil at all. I think, in fact, he is massively misrepresented in the popular lore. And a lot of people give me flack for it. Oh, Aurangzeb must be your favorite Mughal ruler. Well, he is. Because I think only he could have... managed to govern for 50, 60 years.
Yeah, he was 50 years, yeah.
I mean, and also the fact that, he's coming at a time when the Mughal Empire is literally dwindling. There are like problems from all fronts. The Jat rebellion, the Sikh rebellion, you have the Deccan, which is a problematic frontier, right? How do you manage all of that while still maintaining the grandeur of the Mughal Empire?
One of the other reasons is Guru Tegh Bahadur.
Yeah.
I mean, that is another reason why Aurangzeb is painted that way. Is that story true? Was Guru Tegh Bahadur like executed in a town square?
The fact that there was brutality done, there is no doubt about it. But why was Guru Tegh Bahadur and Aurangzeb fighting against each other has got very little to do with his religion. It's got everything to do with, this political, the Sikhism becoming a political movement.
Okay.
Right? They started building forts. At that point in time, you could not build forts without the explicit permission of the emperor.
King.
You are hunting.
It was almost like a rebellion happening within the empire, so they wanted to quash it.
Guru Hargobind is hunting, right? You are not supposed to, for example, hunt if the emperor does not want you to. Only the Mughal emperor has the sole right to hunt. You have to, again, obtain permissions, etc., from the emperor if you want to do that. Then, there were lands that Akbar had made tax-free for Guru Arjan Dev, etc., so that, the money from there could only go to the Guru. But then you started the Akal Takht, which is basically a throne, right? Which rivals the throne. Right? So which is why Jahangir got Guru Arjan Dev executed. Also, Guru Arjan Dev was, by the way, in favor of Khusro, his own son and the person who was a rival. It is said that Guru Arjan Dev had anointed Khusro.
Oh.
Right? And therefore, once Khusro's rebellion was finished, Jahangir went after everybody. So Noor Jahan's husband got killed. This person, Guru Arjan Dev, got killed. And then, after that, what happened as a movement, as a consequence of that is Sikhs took that as an affront on their religion.
Yes.
And therefore, then more political excesses were made.
Yes.
So then, the Takht became very important. Then you were asking people from different areas which were not tax-free that you must not pay taxes to that Badshah because there's only one Sacha Badshah. So you must pay the Guru. Right? So if you're doing all of this, then it's a political affront for the Mughal Empire and they will have to deal with it politically.
Interesting.
Right? Why was Guru Tegh Bahadur asked to, if you agree to Islam, then we will, give you pardon, is because that was the rule at that point of time. If you wanted pardon, that is the way you could get pardon. You can debate about whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, but there are all sorts of rules that emperors have. If you kiss my feet 50 times, I'll give you pardon. Now, you can debate about this also being a good thing or a bad thing, but that's an emperor. That's not a democratic ruler.
True.
He's going to have many things which you today consider to be, oh my God, how could he?
Correct.
So I think it's very important to also analyze Aurangzeb in his own historical context. And because now we have Aurangzeb as this guy who is very, this religious bigot, so we tend to think that his fight with the Sikhs must also have been a religious thing, but it was completely politically motivated.
Very interesting. What you have done, which is kind of interesting, what just happened in my brain a little bit, is how you changed my perspective about Akbar and then simultaneously tried to do that with Aurangzeb. But what this makes me realize is that of course, as I started with, right, like, the environment of when this existed is also important. These were all kings who were just going around conquering territories, trying to maintain a giant empire, and they had no WhatsApp. That was a problem, because the reason why they kept losing Deccan was because communication was a massive thing. Like, to hold that entire empire together for an Akbar or everyone.
I would actually like to add here. We tend to think that, empires in the pre-modern times were brutal. The maximum brutality is being done by states today simply because they have the means to surveil and to, sort of reach every single person.
That's exactly what I was coming to. When you're talking about holding an empire like Akbar's empire together, he had to rely on myth.
Exactly.
To do that. And then, of course, Jahangir and Aurangzeb came after that. It makes you think a lot. That these people existed in one time. What we think of now as evil might have been a compulsion back then, honestly.
Exactly.
To sustain their empire, to feed their
100%.
people, to do all the things. But final verdict, tell me how people should think about the Mughals.
I would say that, looking at any ruler as an evil despot in a pre-modern setting is incorrect. So firstly, remove that. The other thing is to, if you want to know about Mughals, you should read about Mughals. There is plenty of academic work that has been
Name
done on
some
Mughals.
quickly books that people
So there
should.
is J.F. Richards, there is the newer authors, etc. Like, if you want to read, for example, this thing, how Akbar thought he was a Mahdi, there's a great book called The Millenarian Sovereign by Afsar Moin. So you can read him. There's, of course, Irfan Habib, who's like
Irfan Habib, yes.
the goat of Indian history anyway. There's Shireen Musvi, who's done plenty of work on, economic history of the Mughals. And there is Abhishek Kaikar, again a very new, historian whose work is also very good. There is Sanjay Subramaniam, Muzaffar Alam. They've written this book on the Mughal state, which is again fantastic. So there is so much, that you can actually go ahead and read about Mughals. And the more you read, the more you will understand. What you should not be doing is reading WhatsApps on Mughals and thinking that, this must be how Mughal history is.
Yeah. And don't let that shape your perception about the current times, please.
Correct.
It's important because if you hold Mughals as the symbols for the current day Muslim population, that is extremely wrong of you to do that. So don't do that. And
Also, I think to reduce Mughal history as just Muslim history is very bad.
Yeah, it is Indian history.
It is Indian history. I mean, like I
It
said,
is actually subcontinental history, if you think
absolutely,
about it. It's not just
absolutely.
Indian also.
Even Pakistan is allowed to use them.
Yeah, exactly.
So there is no doubt about this. That in fact, like I said, so many people who were working for the Mughals were non-Muslims.
Yeah.
Right. So to completely reduce that to a Muslim empire is just very sad.
Absolutely. So were Mughals evil despots? It's not so simple. And
It's not
Dr. Ruchika Sharma has proved it. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad I came
Yeah.
here.